Welcome to the deep dive. We're here to cut through the noise, getting straight to the core of what really matters, bringing you the insights you need in this complex world. Today, we're diving headfirst into something called climateflation. It's a term, maybe a bit new, but it captures a pretty chilling reality. We're talking about how climate change is, well, already hitting our grocery budgets, and how it's reshaping what actually ends up on our dinner plates.
That's right. And it's more than just numbers on a receipt.
Exactly. This isn't just an economic blip. Our sources show climateflation acts almost like a social multiplier.
How so?
Well, it seems to make health inequalities worse. And it can fray the fabric of community stability, ways we're maybe only just starting to fully grasp.
Hmm.
So our mission today is to go beyond just stating the problem. We really want to explore how climate change directly impacts the cost, the availability of our food, and what that means for, our health, our communities, and our collective future. We've got a really good stack of sources to help us navigate this.
Yeah, we're going to try and unpack this in a way that really lights up the connections. We'll start by properly defining climateflation, what it actually is. Then we'll look straight at the immediate human impact, how it affects people right now. From there, we'll delve into those broader economic forces, the ones often working behind the scenes. And then, crucially, we'll pivot to discuss potential solutions. We'll look at everything from, say, local actions you might take, right up to the global strategies that are frankly vital. This deep dive, using your sources, really aims to paint a comprehensive picture, and hopefully an actionable one, too.
Okay, good. So let's start there. Let's nail down that definition.
Right. So climateflation. It refers specifically to inflation, rising prices in food, but caused directly by climate-driven disruptions in agriculture. That's the key link. And the real kicker here, I think, is that this isn't some far-off forecast. It's not hypothetical. It's a very real current phenomenon. We're living through it today. It translates direct climate impacts into, well, tangible costs for all of us.
Okay, tangible costs. Let's make that concrete. There's an example from the sources that really makes it hit home for me. Picture a livestock farmer. This one's in Kent, in the UK. His whole livelihood tied to his land, right? He saw his hay yield the feed for his animals just plummet by a staggering 50%. 50.
Wow, half his crop. Why?
Extreme weather. So basically, it was a nasty combination of prolonged drought, then followed by sudden, intense flooding. Just wiped out half the expected yield.
Right, a double whammy.
Exactly. Now, that immediate loss, it doesn't just stay on his farm, does it? It creates this ripple effect.
Yeah, it has to.
Less hay means higher feed costs for his animals. That means higher running costs for him. And that pressure, well, it inevitably moves all the way through the supply chain, ultimately landing squarely on consumer prices. Meat, dairy.
It's a direct line, then, from a flooded field to a steeper grocery bill. And if we zoom out from that one farm in Kent, we see this isn't isolated, is it? Not just one region or one product like hay. The data clearly points to weather extremes hitting crops all over the world.
Like where?
Well, our sources mention the devastation of fruits and vegetables in India. Think unseasonably heavy monsoon rains just ruining harvests. And we're seeing similar things with chocolate production, West Africa. Rising temperatures, changing rainfall patterns, it stresses the cocoa plants, hits the yields.
Chocolate too, huh? So it's basics and luxuries.
It's across the board. And what's really striking is how these disruptions are making healthy, fresh food scarcer. And because of that, significantly more expensive. Everywhere. It's not just about whether you can afford it, sometimes it's about whether you can even find it. This directly undermines food security for millions.
Okay, so this global scarcity you're describing, it funnels right down into our local communities, and the sources highlight that for low-income families, the impact is particularly sharp, right?
Very much so. When nutritious food becomes prohibitively expensive, these families face really tough choices.
Yeah, I mean, imagine having to choose between buying healthy food or paying the rent.
Exactly. And our sources reveal this isn't just about making a poor choice, it's often a forced coping mechanism. They have to shift to cheaper, often less healthy alternatives.
And that creates a kind of hidden health tax, as one source put it.
Precisely. You save money immediately on the food bill, but it can lead to much higher long-term healthcare costs down the line. It creates this damaging cycle of poverty and poor health.
So beyond that immediate financial strain, what are the deeper, maybe long-term public health consequences that the sources highlight?
Well, it's like a devastating domino effect, really. When families are consistently forced towards those cheaper, less nutritious, often ultra-processed foods, simply because that's all the budget allows, the risks climb. We see elevated risks for malnutrition, even if calorie intake is okay. Then increased rates of chronic diseases, diabetes, heart disease, obesity.
And this affects children too, especially children. It can impact their cognitive development, their ability to learn at school. It essentially starts to rewrite long-term health outcomes, their future potential. It really cements cycles of disadvantage across generations.
That's a sobering picture. It really drives home how these price shifts ripple through a family's entire well-being and then, the whole community's resilience. And you mentioned the global picture earlier. Our sources also point to a stark global equity issue tied into climateflation, don't they?
Absolutely. The really crucial point here is the uneven burden. Regions already highly vulnerable to climate shifts, think parts of the Sahel and Africa, floodplains in South Asia, certain agricultural zones in Latin America, they feel these shocks the hardest.
Why them particularly?
They often lack the robust infrastructure, the diverse economies, or the financial safety nets to adapt quickly when disaster strikes. And some sources argue that wealthier nations, with their purchasing power and complex import networks, can sometimes effectively export the volatility of climateflation.
Export the volatility. How does that work? Well, they can often secure supplies from alternative sources, buffering their own consumers, while the price spikes and shortages hit harder in the less resilient, often poorer producing countries. It leaves these communities bearing the brunt of local supply shocks with fewer ways to cope, deepening those existing global inequalities. Some even call it a form of climate debt.
A climate debt, okay. So this isn't some threat looming on the horizon. The sources are absolutely clear this is happening right now, today,
Hmm.
hitting dinner tables. And for anyone thinking, oh, maybe it's just a temporary spike, our sources offer a bit of a reality check. There's a stat in there.
Yes, the projections.
Yeah.
Drawing from pretty advanced climate models, those complex simulations scientists use, they suggest prices for things like fruits, vegetables, other perishables. They're expected to stay elevated, maybe even increase further in the coming years.
So not a blip, more like a new baseline we're entering.
It looks that way. It's shaping up to be a persistent challenge, not just a temporary market fluctuation.
Okay, let's dig into the economics a bit more then. What are the forces driving this beyond just a bad harvest here or there?
It's definitely multi-layered. It's not just single crop failures, as you say.
Yeah.
We're seeing significant supply chain shocks. That means sudden disruptions anywhere from the farm to your fork, like a key port being closed by a storm or a major transport route blocked by floods.
Right. Cascading failures.
Exactly. And that's coupled with rising insurance costs for farmers who are battling increasingly unpredictable weather. Makes their business riskier, more expensive. And then there's heightened market volatility. Prices swinging wildly because of all this uncertainty and sometimes speculation too.
So how does that translate so quickly?
Well, when yields drop due to weather, the supply constraint immediately pushes prices up, often before the food even reaches the shops. It's a very direct, very rapid transmission of climate impact straight into your wallet. Almost like, a tax on every meal.
And crucially, the time aspect here. Our sources stress this isn't short term. We can't just wait it out.
No, those climate models we mentioned, they strongly indicate these patterns of disruption, droughts, floods, heat waves will likely get worse, more frequent, more intense.
So what does that mean for how we live, how we plan? It sounds like unless we take significant concerted action, food inflation might just become the new normal, not just a temporary spike.
That's the stark possibility, yes. And if that's the case, it demands a fundamental shift in how we approach our entire food system.
A fundamental shift. What kind of shifts are we talking about? What do the sources suggest this new normal requires?
It means we absolutely need innovative, systemic strategies, urgently. Our sources point strongly towards widespread adoption of sustainable farming practices, things like regenerative agriculture, which actually rebuilds soil health, makes it more resilient, or agroforestry, integrating trees into farmland, boosts biodiversity, helps with water retention, captures carbon.
Okay, so changes on the farm itself. What else?
Big investments in climate-resilient crops. We need varieties that can actually withstand these changing conditions. Think drought-tolerant maize or flood-resistant rice. There's amazing work happening with advanced breeding techniques.
And the supply chains?
Absolutely critical. Much greater diversification. We can't be so reliant on single regions or single transport routes. Reducing those single points of failure is key. These are the conversations and increasingly the urgent actions happening right now in agriculture, science, policy, even finance.
Right. So if this is the reality, the big question, and maybe the hopeful one, is what can we actually do? Let's pivot to solutions, because the sources aren't just doom and gloom. They do offer pathways forward. Maybe we can start local. immediate actions.
Yes, definitely. Our sources really highlight the crucial role of local agriculture and urban farming, too.
Urban farming, like rooftop gardens.
That, but also community gardens, turning unused city spaces into productive plots. Regional food hubs connecting local farmers directly with consumers. These initiatives can genuinely help communities become less reliant on those long, sometimes fragile global supply chains. They act as a buffer when distant disruptions happen.
And examples?
Yeah, some cities are seeing real success with things like vertical farms, growing fresh greens year-round inside buildings, using minimal water and land, right where people live. It's about building resilience from the ground up, distributing production.
Okay, that's fascinating. And building on those farm strategies, the sources mention crop diversification again, but in more detail.
Right. It's not just planting a few different things randomly. It means strategically integrating varieties specifically chosen for their tolerance to drought, heat, new pests that might thrive in warmer climates.
Using science and maybe traditional knowledge.
Both. Leveraging traditional knowledge of indigenous crops that are often naturally resilient, alongside cutting-edge genetic research, building resilience right into the plants. And beyond the crops themselves, there's a huge emphasis on smart water management.
Right, water is key. What kind of techniques are mentioned?
Well, things like precision irrigation systems that deliver water directly to the roots, drip by drip, minimizing waste. Rainwater harvesting, capturing and storing water when it's plentiful for use during dry spells. Even desalination in some coastal areas, though that has energy implications, of course.
And forecasting. You mentioned that earlier.
Yes, improved forecasting is critical. Using AI, satellite imagery, we can now predict extreme weather events with much better accuracy. That gives farmers precious lead time. Maybe they can harvest early or put protective measures in place. It helps mitigate some damage before it even hits.
These tech and farm changes are vital, but it sounds like policy has a massive role too. Governments need to step up.
Absolutely central. Our sources explain how governments can be real game changers here.
How? What specific actions?
Well, they can subsidize those climate-smart practices we talked about, cover cropping, reduce tillage, agroforestry, basically make it economically attractive for farmers to adopt more sustainable methods. Think of it like investing in the ecological foundation of our food system.
And support for smaller farmers.
Crucial. Providing direct financial aid and technical support to smallholder farmers. They're often the most vulnerable to climate shocks, but have the fewest resources to adapt on their own.
What about internationally?
Beyond borders, the sources stress the absolute need for strong international agreements, focused squarely on global food security. That means more than just aid. It means agreements on fair trade practices, sharing technology, and managing risk together in a world where food markets are deeply interconnected and the climate is changing everywhere.
That's a huge range of action, from a single farm right up to global treaties. Which brings us to the listener, to you. What's your role in all this? The sources emphasize that consumers aren't just passive victims of prices, right? We can be active shapers.
Absolutely. Every choice we make, big or small, it adds up. Simple things like reducing food waste at home. It sounds small, but our sources highlight that about a third of all food produced globally gets wasted.
A third. That's staggering.
It is. Think of all the water, land, energy used to produce food that just ends up in the bin. Also, making more climate-friendly dietary choices, maybe incorporating more plant-based meals, or consciously choosing local, seasonal produce when you can. That reduces your footprint and supports local resilience.
And supporting businesses.
Yeah, consciously looking for and supporting businesses that demonstrably prioritize sustainability in their sourcing, their packaging, their farming links. It sends a powerful market signal. It's really about becoming a more informed, more intentional participant in the whole food economy.
Okay. So as we bring this deep dive toward a close, the big takeaway for me is that climateflation isn't just some abstract economic term. It's very much a present reality. It's affecting us today, changing our lives, our food choices, and it's also a really clear, urgent warning about what's coming if we don't act decisively. It really underscores the need for integrated action, doesn't it? Individually, yes, but also collaboratively, globally. If we want to secure our collective food future, ensure everyone gets access to affordable, nutritious food.
Precisely. The path forward really demands comprehensive resilience across every part of society. That means adaptability, foresight, from ongoing agricultural innovation and far-reaching policy reforms that genuinely prioritize long-term sustainability. right through to increased consumer awareness and those more conscious choices we make every day. It's fundamentally about building a robust, equitable food system, one that can not only withstand the climate challenges we already face, but actually thrive in the future.
Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive. It's such a critical topic, and I hope this conversation has offered a clearer, perhaps more nuanced understanding of the forces at play and, crucially, the potential pathways forward.
And maybe before we finish, just a final thought for you, the listener, to consider. Reflecting on all this, the climate links, the economic impacts, your everyday life, what specific aspect of climateflation resonates most strongly with you? And perhaps what steps, small or large, might you explore to become part of building a more resilient food system starting today?
A great question to ponder. We encourage you to think about that interconnectedness, to keep seeking out information on these vital issues, and maybe share your own insights with people around you. Until next time, stay curious, stay informed.